Juncta Juvent, or Strength in Unity, has been the official seal of Cincinnati, Ohio for over 200 years. And while the skyline may be different than it once was, the idea still holds true. Today, as cities like Cincinnati look to the future, this notion may hold the key to tackling climate change through sustainable, resilient cities.
Yeah, you have the Paris Accord, global agreement, but when you look at the solutions that work, they're typically on-the-ground solutions at city scale. And you look at the number of people living in cities and the amount of emissions that are actually coming out of cities, it makes a lot of sense for cities to be the leader, the tool to help achieve these carbon reductions.
Since the passing of the Green Cincinnati Plan in 2018, Ollie Kroner and the Office of Environment and Sustainability have created dozens of impactful programs for the city. Part of this work included successfully bringing their 2030 district online.
At the launch of the Green Cincinnati Plan, the mayor appointed a steering committee comprised of institutional figureheads, right? So leaders from for-profit companies, from universities. They gave us 3 pillars: sustainability, equity, and resilience. When you think about equity, that really means that you have to hear from a lot of voices, right? And so we held meetings across the city, different communities, held them in churches, held meetings in Spanish, did our best to hear voices that we don't always hear from. And the 2030 district brings in this whole new portfolio of partners who have their own sustainability visions, who said, okay, let's come together, work with the city, work with each other to figure this out.
The City of Cincinnati became one of the first 10 founding members of the 2030 district. This critical phase was reached as a result of leadership and coalition building across the private and public sectors.
At the end of 2017, a group of volunteers started kicking around an idea of what would it look like to get the biggest buildings in Cincinnati to go green in a meaningful way.
This is a concept obviously Pittsburgh has done really well with, and some other cities.
The table grew and grew as they started bringing in more folks, and so we started talking to having it be a part of Green Umbrella, and what would it take to actually launch that.
And then you guys came along and asked me if I would help to recruit folks into it and make it happen. So I had a meeting with Rodney McMullen, the CEO of Kroger. We went on a walk. I said, look, you're already doing a lot of this stuff. Let's combine forces and help create a sense of peer pressure on others to lead by example and ask people, not force them to do it because we don't have the legal authority to do it, but ask them to do it because it's the right thing to do. And they said yes.
It's not about convincing people that climate change is real or not. It's about making the case that all this stuff is great for our community. You know, we're investing in things that are really going to have a positive impact, whether or not you care about climate change.
Right, exactly. Never doubt that by working together, we can make a difference. And I think that we will lead by example, but it's not just symbolic. It will, in fact, reduce carbon consumption.
City Hall was part of the city's broader commitment to building efficiency under the 2030 district guidelines. This 125-year-old building stands as an architectural masterpiece of its time and is part of the city's unique history.
Clearly a different era, built with grandeur, not really energy efficiency in mind. And you think of a lot of the modern green buildings focus on locally sourced materials. Here you have materials from all over the world to create the ambiance that you see today. But as we think about climate and energy efficiency, we have some challenges ahead of us. It's not a cheap building to heat or cool.
Despite its age, buildings like this can be preserved and retrofitted with new energy-saving technology.
Lighting is always a starting point. Much of the lighting here has been retrofitted with LEDs already, but not all of it. I'll have to show you our green roof in the courtyard here. We have a very steep slate roof that won't accommodate solar very easily, so we'll have to look at where else we could place solar to feed the building. You know, technology continues to improve. You have to revisit these things. Yeah, I think Cincinnati's really had to pioneer sustainability solutions that have worked economically, because we don't often do green for the sake of green. And, you know, energy's cheap here. Waste is cheap here. So in order to make solutions work, you have to make them pencil economically. And that's forced us to be innovative in many regards. Retrofitted green roof. You may know that we're dealing with stormwater troubles across the city. The system helps store and slow stormwater runoff. See all the old stacks? Used to have a generator here. Things were a little bit different in the 1890s. city government has other buildings, like our District 3 police headquarters, where operation costs were held top of mind. And for a slight premium to build, there's no utility bill in perpetuity. Solar on the roof, geothermal in the ground, the building produces all of the energy it consumes.
The District 3 police headquarters on Cincinnati's west side replaced an outdated 100-year-old building in 2015. This $16 million state-of-the-art facility utilizes some of the latest in solar, water, and technical solutions available to make buildings more sustainable. It's also the world's first net-zero police station, producing the same amount of energy as it consumes each year.
What makes this building really special is that it is a city building that is on 24/7, 365. It never, ever shuts down. How do you get a building like that to be net zero energy?
As cities everywhere look to invest in more energy-efficient solutions and partnerships, smart and cost-effective architecture continues to play a key role in the design of more sustainable buildings like District 3. Combined with green building certification programs such as LEED, which uses a point system to determine how sustainable a building is, meeting the lofty goals of a project this scale requires innovative thinking early on.
So the real key to hitting a highly sustainable building is to start early. You leave no watt unturned. You try and test everything to see what is the most cost-effective and most efficient, most sustainable way to do it. It's a little hard to see on the building, but when you get to the parking lot, you'll see solar arrays. Those are working better than expected. So in 6.5 years, they'll be paid off, and the city actually receives a check from Duke now every year because we're feeding energy back to the grid. So it's actually supporting the department.
If you knew where we came from on Warsaw Avenue, where we couldn't even have a meeting in our own building because we had no meeting room, to the area we have now, it's just incredible. The open design lets a lot of natural light in. Now, sometimes it's the smaller things that can make a world of difference in the daily work life of the officer. There were many meetings that happened prior to the final design on what the community members wanted to see. That buy-in is critical.
Some of the community comments that we received were parents saying, now they feel comfortable with their child going to visit the police station if they need help. This isn't California, it's not New York, right? This is a conservative mindset that looks at the realities of budget. If it can be done here, it can be done anywhere.
Building on the recent momentum, Cincinnati is now constructing what will become the nation's largest municipal solar array, providing clean energy for the city's buildings well into the future.
This is a big day. The city is going big on solar. We're doing it at a savings to the taxpayer, and we're cleaning our environment in the process.
Just outside the city, a 1,000-acre soybean farm will be the new home to over 300,000 solar panels. Producing 100 megawatts of clean energy, it will help keep 157 million pounds of coal in the ground every year.
When we set out to start this project, our overall goals were to utilize money that we were already spending. Utilize money that we were using to pump water, that residents were using to power their homes, to utilize that spend that they already have and choose where we're getting our electricity from.
Using what is known as a purchase power agreement, the city will be able to lock in energy rates over the next 2 decades and save taxpayers roughly $1.7 million in the process.
In addition, we have, with the 2030 district, we have businesses in downtown Cincinnati who are willing to also invest in solar energy. And our goal is to make it easy for them to bootstrap their needs onto ours.
The last thing I'm going to leave you with is, due to the size of this array, on sunny days in the summer, city government for the city of Cincinnati will be 100% renewable powered through this array. It is that large.
Cincinnati motto is stronger together, and I think that's really what we're faced with today. This is one of the most challenging issues humankind has ever faced. It's really an all hands on deck situation. And it's interesting, we put all of this work into creating the 2030 district, aiming for 50% emissions reductions by 2030. And right after that, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change came out and said, what it's really going to take is we have to reduce our emissions 50% by 2030, all of us. So it's really aligning, the science and the efforts, the politics are coming together. But no individual has all of the solutions, right? So we have to look to each other, look for opportunities to partner, look for ideas to share, ideas to borrow, to figure this out.